Yeah, well, I'll tell you, what you're doing is amazing because it's not just touching people, men of abundance, it's not just touching people here in the U.S., but around the world. They're getting a chance to hear and listen to people who they may not get a chance to listen to, and that they're average day people. And that right now, men of abundance, you have people knocking down your doors to put out their product or to put out their message. And what you're doing is man, it's gonna be hard to duplicate by anybody. So hey, brother, keep doing what you're doing. It's beautiful, it's amazing. I enjoy each and every one, and I look forward to 200 more episodes.
Welcome to Men of Abundance, the podcast for those looking to level up their lives by hanging out with some of the greatest leaders and established professionals in our community, living a life of integrity, honor, and the abundance mentality. Prepare to pay it forward with your host, former Army medic turned lifestyle entrepreneur, Wally Carmichael.
All right, guys, this is episode 100 of Men of Abundance. I cannot believe it has been over a year since I started this podcast, and I have truly talked to some amazing people, men and women, people that I would have never, ever been able to have a conversation with had I not built this platform and built a audience for them to talk to. Now, some of these people I've talked to, as you know, are CEOs. I've talked to the COO of 1-800-GOT-JUNK. That was Cameron Herold. I mean, I've talked to some amazing people. I've talked to people that are making $200,000 a month to people that are making $80,000 a year and less, but nonetheless living their life of abundance in their own right. And guys, I'm telling you right now, I saved somebody for episode 100 that is truly just going to blow your mind. I know this because I've known this man for many years. We've served in the military together. We've served as equal employment specialists together, EEO. I use equal employment specialists, so those civilians of you out there don't know what an equal opportunity advisor is. And we'll get a little bit into that into the conversation. I got to tell you, I really don't know where this conversation is going to go because this guy, he's just the most amazing thing to watch when he's got his bucket list. He's out doing his bucket list. He's doing his thing. He's living his life, still on active duty, and just doing wonderful things for so many people wherever he goes. And I don't have a bio for him, but I'm going to read to you real quick what he put when he got signed up on the Skype form or on my scheduling form. He put this, and this just really outlines who he is. I'm a little bit of what the world needs me to be and a little bit of what they want me to be. Simply put, respect me, I respect you. Men of Abundance, I want to introduce you to Mr. Isaac Day. Isaac, welcome to the show, man. How you doing?
Man, it's great. It feels, man, you just gave me, I got goosebumps just listening to you, my friend. And I've been waiting and waiting for this day.
Yeah, we've been planning this day for a long time, man.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And just watching how your show has grown, simply, it's blessed my life. Like you said, 99 times the fold. Just seeing how everything has grown and how I've benefited from it. I got my son listening to Men of Abundance because he's 15, but 18's right around the corner.
Man, I appreciate that. I really do. Where are you at in the world today?
Right now, I'm in Las Vegas. My son had a basketball tournament.
That's awesome. And before we got started talking on the show, guys, Isaac ended up in Las Vegas because he was asked at the last minute to coach his son's basketball team, and he had never coached a basketball team. Isaac, I want you to share a little bit of what you was talking about before we got started here, if you would.
So, with all honesty, I am not a basketball guy. I don't know anything about basketball, but I support my son in anything he wants to do. So, at the last minute, one of the coaches had backed out, and the guy who runs the organization asked me to step in, so I flew in. And, man, we literally just finished this tournament, and we won it all. And it was the most amazing feeling because, one, I don't know anything about basketball, but what I do know is people. And so after each game, I will let a different person be the captain. And based on their strengths, I said, hey, just do you. Just be who you are. I don't need you to be Michael Jordan. Be you.
Man, I love that. That is just amazing. That is beautiful. That just, again, shows just who you are. So, as you know, before we get too much into the show, I like to start out every single show with an attitude of gratitude. I know you've got so much to be grateful for. What do you have to be grateful for today, Isaac?
Man, brother, I'm absolutely grateful for like people like yourself. I have some absolutely amazing friends, beautiful inside and out, and every day, no matter what's going on, I'll get 2 or 3 phone calls, and man, when things are going well or not well, afterwards we finish up those conversations, and it's empowering to know that we all have the same struggles and we all have the same successes, but it's good to just reflect and enjoy in each other's moments.
Yeah, it really is. I've found it even so much more important over the last year throughout my career. I mean, anytime I've ever been able to excel in life, it was because I had others on my side, and I was following somebody who was just a little bit further ahead than myself, or even way further ahead than myself, and I was trying to follow in their footsteps and just being that much more successful. But at the end of the day, when we're in the Army, we call it an after-action report, after review. And, we sit down and reflect on what just happened, good or bad, and we take that opportunity to learn from it. And I absolutely love that. That's wonderful. So, as you know, here on Men of Abundance, we're going to get into your story. We're going to get into your kick in the gut moment. We're going to get into your pivot point and a little bit about what you're doing now and where you see yourself going in the future. But we really like to get to know the man behind the abundance. So if you could, just share a little bit with us about yourself. Let's get a little bit personal.
Okay, well, again, I'm Isaac Day. I'm a combat medic. 22 years in the military as of the 5th of July, which is in itself, a blessing. I got a lot of nonprofits that I help out, but mostly I spend a lot of my time, working with the homeless, the domestic violence shelters, working with my kids, any sport, any activity they're doing, to supporting them in any way I can. And just trying to be a good person, be a great human being. It's all about humanity.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm gonna grab some of the videos while I'm thinking about this. As I'm editing this show, in the show notes, I'm gonna have some of the videos from your Facebook page because they're out there public for the world to see. So I feel comfortable doing that. With the crazy antics that you set up sometimes on Facebook Live, but usually you're just doing these videos and posting them on Facebook, like taking a random stranger's drink out of their hand and asking them and sipping off the straw, or licking their ice cream or something down at the Dole Plantation or something. It just cracks me up when you do that kind of stuff. But it's just another one of these days I just see you getting punched in the eye. But you're just such an approachable man that it just doesn't happen. And I don't know what to think about that sometimes. So what's going through your mind when you come up with something like that?
Well, I tell people I meet and those who have known me, and I let them know, I'm different. And it has caused me, friends and family, but I'm always myself. I look at life, it is better to lose others than to lose myself to fit in. So, my bucket list, I do some crazy things. But to me, it's a sense of connection, because after I do it, we end up, exchanging numbers, and they're like, hey, you travel? Yeah, I travel, and I'm constantly meeting new folks, and through those experiences, people learn to laugh and not be so serious. It's if you walk around with the angry face, I'm gonna put a smile on your face. That's Isaac in a nutshell.
Yeah, I get it completely. So, I could pick out a couple kick in the gut moments in your life that I personally know about, but I want you to own this. I want you to share one of those kick in the gut moments that maybe I don't know about, and I'd actually prefer that. But either way, it's up to you. Share one of your kick in the gut moments and something that really took you to your knees, and make us feel that.
Okay, I would say, Wally, my kick in the gut moment, and it's really, as I sit here thinking about it, it really hurts just to think about it, would have to definitely be the first soldier I lost that worked directly under me to suicide. And for me, getting that phone call, because the signs were there, I spoke to the leadership, um, tried to get this person help, but they knew the right thing to say to not get help. And so when I did get the phone call, it was like, I told you. Like, it really, it made me look at life totally different. People will get help when they want to get help. I cannot force anyone to get help. And so, I always had that attitude. If you're feeling down, I'll fill you up. More so like I'm gonna bring this energy, this optimism, and you're gonna feed off it. And if there's some people out there that are like I call it energy vampires. They just suck your energy, but that gives me more energy. But when I got that phone call, I thought about his wife. I thought about his 4 kids, not growing up with a father. I thought about the stats that say if you commit suicide, your kids are 7 times more likely to commit suicide. All that stuff ran through my head. These kids are going to grow up without a father. And what am I going to say to those little ones when they get old enough to ask me what happened? What was my dad like?
Yeah.
And to this day, it's something that I think if you love someone, if you care for someone, ask those hard questions. Are you okay? Are you really okay? Because happiness, I believe it depends upon the quality of your thoughts.
Yeah, I feel that, brother, and I feel that personally because I've been there myself. And I know what you're saying about those personality tests and how they ask the right questions. I had a soldier when I was in Fort Hood that was actually sent back to my organization from Iraq because he had some serious mental issues going on. And he took the GAT, and I can't remember what the GAT stands for, but Men of Abundance, the GAT is basically it's a series of questions to ask if we are in a position to where we may end up hurting ourselves or someone else. That's the bottom line. That's what it's really for. But bottom line is he passed that thing. I mean, when he took this test, he answered it honestly. And the bottom line is he had multiple personalities, and I can go into some of the stories that we've had. He's been hospitalized many times, and it all culminated in an event. People that don't want to receive help, they know the right questions to answer many of the time. And Isaac, I hope you don't mind my sharing this, but Men of Abundance, Isaac is one of those guys that I've had to call a couple times on the carpet and say, "Hey, guy, how's it going? What's going on in your world today?" Because I know that Isaac has suffered from PTSD for many years, and he's the happiest guy I know. But at times, I can see it because I'm his friend and I've known him for a long time that he needs a guy to talk to. And Isaac will call me out of the blue sometimes, and we'll just have a conversation. I want you as a man to be there for the men in your community in the same way, just like Isaac is.
And I think that's important. One of the things I tell people that I'm friends with family, some people I don't even know, I'll give them hey, if you ever need someone to talk to, pick up the phone and call me. And I'll tell you, like you said, Wally, there's been a few times where I called you up because, at the end of the day, whether it was my guy who committed suicide or, we've both been deployed and we've seen some, things that are not so pleasant. And it's certain dates for me that really, when that day comes up, I feel it. And I make it a point to reach out and talk to someone that respects me and loves me just like I love them. And they'll put things in perspective because, we all have our moments. No one is perfect. And as I said earlier, when you focus on problems, you will have more problems. When you focus on possibilities, you'll have more opportunities. So as I called you on those many times, more opportunities will open up to me through you by saying, "Hey, Isaac, hey, look at it like this. Have you thought about this?" And a lot of times I did. And I was like, wow, okay.
Yeah, and I take that sometimes and I look at this, and let's put it to where it's at. You're black, I'm white. You've lived a different life than I have because of the color of your skin. Now, your parents are white, but that doesn't change the fact that the color of your skin is black. So you've been treated differently than I have throughout the nation because you and I have traveled all over the world and all of the United States. And you have a different perspective on life than I do, even though we've known each other for many years. And I cherish that. I personally, truly embrace, and I just get so energized in diversity. I just do, because there's so much to learn from other people and the way they are. And that's why I love sitting down and having these deep conversations with you, man, because sometimes the way, you'll bring something up and I'm like, damn, I never saw it that way. I'm not sure that I agree with it, but that's Isaac's reality, man. And I just roll with it. I just say, okay, I have to accept it for what that is. And that's not the way I've seen it. And I have other friends that I've had these conversations with as well. And it just makes me reflect on it and ponder, and really helps me as a man understand other people. And that's ultimately what I really want to do.
It's amazing that you brought up the situation with race, and I wanted to touch upon that. Living on both sides, having parents who God took out the oven too soon. That's a joke. But, or as my dad would say, God left me in the oven too long. I look at race because I hear it when I'm around people who look like me. They will say certain things that normally they wouldn't say in front of you, and vice versa. I have a lot of different friends, and they're like, well, you're not like the others. I'm like, well, what are the others like? And that's one of the biggest things that I think we, as a human race, because that's what we are, we're a human race, we have to look past our colors, our differences. Because when you start to talk to someone, you'll be amazed at how much you have in common. Brother, I'll tell you, you and I, we have more in common than probably anyone I've known in the military. And we look totally different. We stand for the same principles: dignity, respect, and honor.
Yeah, I mean, we've got those indoctrinated institutional values in common for sure. And we've also got our individual values as well. Some of those individual values between you and I are aligned. But some of them, just inherently in the fact that we've lived all over the world in different places, some of our values aren't exactly in line. And what I mean by that is not necessarily values, but just the way that we see certain events and the way we see certain things might be a little bit different just because of our experiences. And like I said, I embrace that. It's a learning point for me.
And I've learned through my travels. I go all over the world: South America, Thailand, Indonesia, Singapore, Dubai. Like, I travel, and I have my bucket list. And my bucket list may be eat a ice cream in Dubai. Maybe that's simple, but I will absolutely check it off my list. And through my travels, I've learned that when it comes to different cultures, I don't compare my culture or my life to others. There's no comparison. If I could give an example of that, between the, if you look at the sun and the moon, there's no comparison. They both shine when it's their time. And the same thing with getting to know someone. I believe that 99.9% of our problems here in the U.S. and around the world can be handled through, respectful dialogue.
100% agree. One of the stories that really kind of sends that home for me personally, one of my experiences is when I was in Kazakhstan, and we're sitting around a table, and it's me, 3 other paratroopers, a Russian colonel, and they have the blue beret. I was an 82nd Airborne at the time. We had the maroon beret, and we're talking about the differences in our beret. And which is better, who's better, And that, the colonel says he's got a translator because he had never sat down in front of Americans in his life. And we're sitting there, ironically enough, drinking vodka. And he says, this is how our differences should be settled. Sitting down around a freaking table, drinking vodka, and have the conversation right here. We shouldn't be sending our sons and daughters into, and I'm not going to get political on this stuff right now, but the bottom line is we have differences. We recognize that. And as much battle as this colonel had seen in his life, he just felt more comfortable sitting down with these Americans that he had never sat with before, and he had these other preconceived ideas about that we befriended. I mean, we shared uniforms and stuff, and I get chills just thinking about it, because those are the events in my life that I like to share with all of the abundant leaders out there, and showing that, yes, we have differences. Let's embrace those differences, and let's capitalize on that, because we can be so much better off with all the different minds coming together.
And you know what? You brought up a great point. I tell folks, if you're really serious about being open to other cultures, if you're serious about change, you have to go through uncomfortable situations. Stop trying to dodge the process. It's the only way to grow. Absolutely only way to grow.
It is, in fact.
And we can disagree and still love each other, unless your disagreement is rooted in my oppression and denial of my humanity and my right to exist. That's when I have a problem. But other than that, as long as we respect each other, hey, bro, I love everyone. Hell, if a Martian landed on Earth tomorrow, I'll be the first one to, however they want me to greet them, I will greet them that way. That's Isaac.
I agree. And one of the other things that always aggravated me about this, as I traveled with other soldiers to all these different countries, or even when I'm just traveling in general and I see other Americans in a different country, and I've seen people actually get pissed off because, what do you mean you don't speak English? And why don't you understand this and understand that? It's like, dude, you're not in America, man. You know, you need to embrace this culture. You're here. You came here for a reason, especially if you're a tourist, and you want to embrace the culture. Don't come here and expect the what you're used to in your hometown and where you're from. And you know what? Half the time when I go talk to the same people they were talking to, they do speak English. It's just once I make a vested effort to communicate with them in the way they're used to being communicated with, they open up and they say, this is the reason why so many countries around the world perceive the United States as being arrogant and, you know, boastful and stuff like that, because of individuals like that. And it just drives me nuts. It's like, if you're going to go to another culture, embrace that culture, learn from that culture.
Absolutely. And as you stated, to put it all in a nutshell, you know, I think the most beautiful people are those who take the time to be kind. If you're just kind and willing and open to open up yourself and I guess listen. You know, I can entertain someone else's thoughts and ideologies. That's not going to change who I am. I can still respect their thoughts and how they do business and still be who I am.
So, what does that look like as far as being kind? What you're doing for your community and things? I know you don't like talking a whole lot about yourself and exactly what you do for other people in the community. You know, like just stopping what you're doing to go coach your son's basketball team in another state. What are some other things that you're doing? What does that look like? Or maybe not necessarily that you're doing, but you see that other people are doing.
Well, I will talk about some of the things that, and you know, I don't like talking about the things I do, but I will. You know, when I was in Hawaii, you know, I was there for almost 7 years. One of the things I noticed that there was a huge population of those who did not have a place to stay, who lived on the streets. And in seeing what I was seeing, I was like, wow, what is going on? So I started this organization called Saving Souls, like SOLES, because a lot of them were barefooted. So I started off just getting flip-flops and board shorts. And I had a few soldiers I mentored, and they were very interested in the things I was doing on Saturdays, and it just grew. It took off from there, and we started getting donations of just flip-flops and board shorts. And when I sit down and talk to them, I don't come from a spiritual standpoint, as far as, you know, me being a Christian, this is what I'm supposed to, but hey, we're both humans. I don't care what religion you are. Hey, you're in need. So that's one of the biggest things that working with the homeless and this, a lot of the concerns that I see is a lot of them, the ones I've dealt with, have mental disorders. Mm-hmm. And family members at times don't have the time to deal with these folks, and they're human beings.
Yeah.
And they end up being, they're over 18 and they're like, well, you go live on your own. And they choose to be homeless. They choose to be by themselves. So I take the time to talk to them. And, the first weeks, they may not say a word. If there's anything you need, just give me a call. Here's my phone number. And believe it or not, I will get phone calls saying like, hey, I need shorts. I need a tent. And I'll get it to them. No questions asked.
Yeah, that's huge. And thanks for sharing that because, I talked about this recently on an earlier show in that if you're doing amazing things in your community, this was a conversation I had with Timothy Sykes, who wrote $1 million check to Pencils of Promise, which is an organization to build schools around the world in developing countries. And he got a lot of flack for the fact that he would post a picture of a giant check, that he was signing off to some organization. He's got his own foundation as well, the Timothy Sykes Foundation. He gives a lot to the Boys and Girls Club. And he is very big in social media, and a lot of people are just beating him up about it. You shouldn't be posting that kind of stuff. And personally, I think you should. People will constantly post stuff about, two girls fighting in a front yard or, some heinous car accident or something like that. But and that'll get shared 1 million times. But as soon as somebody posts something that they're doing good in the community, people want to say, oh, you should keep that to yourself. You shouldn't share that kind of information. I call BS because I personally think that's the type of stuff that should be shared. You know what it did? When Timothy started posting that picture of him, signing $1 million check to this organization, other people in his circle started donating to that organization and other organizations because they saw what he was doing. So along with people bashing him for it, a lot of good was coming out of it as well. And Isaac, I didn't know that you were doing that with the, flip-flops and the board shorts and all that kind of stuff, as well as I know you. And shame on you, because I should have known about that so that I would be able to participate in that as well, because we do have a very large homeless population here in Hawaii. And they need those simple little things, toothbrush kits and stuff like that to help them out.
Well, that's the other part of it, and I commend Timothy for what he's doing because, when you catch flack for doing something, I tell people my way of doing something is better than your way of doing nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't go out and tell people what I'm doing, and I'll tell you. Let me give a shout out to the Airman's Attic over at Hickam Air Force Base because they put toiletries together that we take to the domestic violence shelter, the men's homeless shelter, the women's homeless shelter. They do a lot, comforters, like a lot. And in fact, we did right there at Triple Iron Medical Center, we did packages for people who are going through cancer treatment, chemotherapy treatment. And just to see the smiles on their faces to get that and just have someone sit down while they're going through chemo was amazing. My mother passed away from leukemia at the age of, I was 5, she was 29. So I have a soft spot for those who are ill. That's why I chose the profession I'm in, taking care of others as a combat medic. Because it's a passion I have. I love it. I don't get tired of doing it. And you're right. It's something I could have shared and said, hey, wow, this is what I'm doing. So, again, some of the things that I do, I keep private. And if those that know me want to be involved, I allow them to infuse themselves into the situation because, people who are in need, they can tell when someone's there just to kind of like feel like pity for them. But I don't go there in pity. I go there with a loving heart. If I was in the same position, I know you would do the same thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
And when they open up, it's a beautiful thing because they let me know who else is in need. They also point out who are veterans, and I get them to the VA so they can get help, which is just a beautiful and honest thing.
Yeah.
You have to get to know your community that you're involved in.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I said shame on you, but at the same time, shame on me as well, because I could be more observant in that as well. So it goes both ways, quite frankly. And I commend you for doing that, and anybody else who does that, rather anonymously or sharing that with other people so that they can get involved as well. I really dig that. So, Isaac, we're going to shift right now. We're going to pay it forward to our abundant leaders. You ready to do that, brother?
Absolutely.
All right, man. So give our men of abundance 1 to 3 actionable steps that they can take today in whatever it is that you feel that they need at this point.
Well, my main 3 things I would say, one is being honest. Be honest with yourself. Being honest with those that you're around. Loyalty. You have to be loyal. Like, loyalty is my number one thing. And secondly is be respectful. Respect goes a long way. Even in times when you're not being respected, showing a little respect and patience goes a long way.
Yeah, it really does. It changes the other person's reaction towards you and changes their mood. So what daily habits make up the biggest impact in your life, Isaac?
Oh, it's one thing is looking back and reflecting and being grateful for the things that happen to me and the things that I make happen, with good or bad, because I believe every experience is a learning experience.
Yeah.
And taking the time to, just reflect daily, literally daily, how my day went and how I can make it better the next day.
Mm-hmm.
And how can I make someone else's life better. And if I wrong someone, because I'm not perfect. I'm not perfect by far. But if there's something that as I review my day and I say, hey, that person may have taken this the wrong way, let me follow up. I will follow up with you. And if there's anyone in the world right now today that I've offended and I don't know I offended you, let me know. I'm man enough to apologize.
I'm smiling at that because I remember a conversation that you and I had because I had posted something on Facebook in reference to what was going on in my life at that point in time. And it was, I don't really want to get into the whole thing right now. It'll open up another can of worms, but you took it a completely different way. And it was because of what was going on in the world at that point in time. And you blasted me on Facebook, and then we sat and talked about it. And he was like, and then you did a public video or something, kind of saying, look, this guy, I took it the wrong way and blah, blah, blah. And, just really came back and ate crow, if you will. And it was classic Isaac, man. I just love it.
As my dad would say, sometimes you eat feathers, sometimes you eat chicken, and you got to be man enough to eat what you eat.
Yeah. Yeah.
And finish it.
Yeah, and I've done the same thing. I've been on the other side as well, man. I appreciate that. So what are you reading or listening to right now that you'd recommend to our abundant leaders, and why?
I started to get into Dean Koontz. I've been reading in the past a lot of leadership books,
Mm-hmm.
but I started to take a time to kind of like enjoy life and just be like shut my mind off and get into someone else's world. So right now I'm reading from the Corner of His Eyes by Dean Koontz. I love his writing style, so I'm really getting into Dean Koontz, and that's something that I'm reading. I listen to a lot of Men of Abundance, and there are times I re-listen to something. I'm like, wow, I didn't hear it the first time in that person's message, and I take notes.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And the fact of the matter is, I have these conversations, then I do the editing, and then I listen to the entire show again. And even when I listen to the entire show again, I get something out of it as well. And that's true with many other books and podcasts or whatever else that I'm listening to. And that's really an important note to take. And I appreciate you saying that, because you can read even the Bible. You can read one proverb, and then when you're 18 and you read it again when you're 28 and 38, it's going to mean something completely different to you, and you're going to get something else out of it because of where you're at in life. So that's really cool.
Yeah, and I do believe, Wally, that you can't control how other people receive your energy. Anything you do or say gets filtered through their lens of whatever personal stuff they are going through at that moment, which is not about you. And I tell people, just keep doing your thing with as much integrity and love as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. So what do you feel holds most people back from truly living a life of abundance?
Change. Fear of change. People get comfortable in the daily things that they do over and over and over, and they don't want change. They say they want change, but let me tell you, change is something that is you have to be courageous to go in and do something you've never done. To change something, your way of thought, whether it's a religious practice, whether it's in the military, how we do things. Are we doing it because it's in SOPs or policies, or was it something that it was a tradition? So to change a tradition, it takes a lot of courage. And I've had to do it with my own family and friends. to include the military. Like, why are we doing this? This is hurting people and not helping people. Hurt people, help people, help people.
Yeah, very true statement. Very, very true statement. So what does living a life of abundance mean to you, Isaac?
Going out in the world and experiencing as much as you can. I don't care if you're just sitting on the beach. Like, I watch your videos with you on the beach, and it's just beautiful because I can experience through what you're seeing, and I'm like, wow, I can see myself there. So just taking a moment to look at the world and see all the beauty that's around us is there. Take the time to enjoy it.
Yeah, it really is. And I appreciate, watching a good video and seeing where people are at. But, man, I'm telling you right now, you can watch TV, you can watch other people's videos, you can live vicariously through their lives, but you got to get out and collect those experiences. I truly 100% agree with that. So, Isaac, we're going to close this up, man. It's been a great, great conversation, as I knew it would be. I had no idea where it was going to go. But I love where it went, and I love, just our typical conversation you and I usually have. But as we close this up, what did we not talk about that you'd like to ensure that our abundant leaders hear from this conversation?
Family and friends are important. Take the time to pick up the phone and check on one another. If you haven't heard anything I said, please. You just don't know the amount of pain that when you lose someone to suicide, how much it hurts. I tell you, tell people you love them. Tell someone that you care, because you may be the only person that they're holding on to, that they're fighting to stay on this earth for, and that they know you'll be disappointed if you didn't get a chance to talk to them. So take the time to check on one another. That's it in a nutshell.
Excellent. Absolutely love it. 100%. All right, man, we're going to close this up, and I truly appreciate you jumping on even after winning all of those games. I know you guys got a lot to celebrate today. What are you guys going to do for the rest of the day?
Well, hey, they jumped into we entered 3 tournaments, so it's the start of the last tournament, and so they're going into it on a high. With this last win, they won it all. So hey, we are the top dog. So we're the team to beat.
I love it, man. Go back there to those kids, show them the time of their life, and I'll see you at another point in time, brother. Aloha.
Absolutely. Thank you again.
That's all for today, Abundance Leaders. For more about our guests and the powerful information we shared with you today, be sure to sign up for our mailing list at menofabundance.com. We appreciate your time and look forward to hanging out with you on our next episode. So until then, be sure to pay it forward and live your life of abundance.